The stars above the planet Zoltrion were dim that evening. Inside the great palace made of black stone and glowing crystals, the air was heavy with worry. The Kareth king, Vornak the Iron-Voiced, stood at the bedside of his only daughter, Princess Thalira. Her breathing was weak. Her skin, normally bronze and glowing, was pale and cold. Her eyes had not opened for 3 days. Thalira was strong. She was a trained warrior. She had won her first duel at age 13, but now she was helpless. Many alien doctors had come, Kareth healers, star-traveling specialists, and even machines from the galactic core. All had failed. Nothing worked. The strange disease inside her body was not like anything they had seen before. It attacked her from inside, changing and adapting to each treatment. King Vornak's face was like stone, but inside he was afraid. Thalira was his only child. He had lost his wife long ago. Thalira was not only his daughter, she was the future queen. In a secret chamber beneath the palace, the king gave an order. Send the call across the stars. Anyone with the skill to save my daughter will be welcomed, even if they are not Kareth. Far away, on a small human colony station called Outpost Theta 7, a group of people received the message. Most ignored it. Some were afraid. The Kareth were not known for kindness. They were proud, warlike, and didn't trust outsiders. But one man read the message carefully. His name was Eric Hayes. He was a human combat medic, with years of experience in battle zones, plague zones, and refugee camps. He had saved lives from every species, human and alien alike. Eric was tall, quiet, and focused. He didn't care about politics. He only cared about helping people. This alien girl, she's sick. They've tried everything. That means they're desperate, Eric said to the outpost doctor. I've seen strange viruses before. Maybe I can help. The doctor looked at him. You'll be entering a palace full of warriors who think humans are weak. I'm not going to fight, Eric replied. I'm going to heal. Eric arrived on Zoltrion 3 days later. He came on a small transport ship, alone. At the landing zone, dozens of Kareth soldiers were waiting. They were tall, with sharp eyes, strong armor, and hands always near their weapons. One of them stepped forward. His name was Commander Jar, the princess's personal guard. You are the human? He asked with a hard voice. I am Medic Eric Hayes, from Earth. I'm here to help your princess. You will not touch her unless the king allows it, and if you fail... Jar's hand moved slightly to his sword, then back. Just do your work, human. Eric was taken through the palace. It was huge and cold, filled with firelight and strange carvings. He entered the royal chamber. King Vornak stood beside the bed, arms crossed. So, the king said, you are the Earth Healer. Eric bowed slightly. I will do everything I can to save your daughter, your majesty. She is proud, the king said. If she wakes, she will not make it easy for you. I'm used to stubborn patients, Eric replied with a small smile. Eric began his work. He asked for full scans of Thalira's body. He asked for her medical history. He examined every report. The Kareth doctors stood around him, whispering in doubt. He noticed something strange. The disease was shifting forms every day, like it was learning how to fight medicine. It looked similar to a virus he had seen during a plague on a moon, near Jupiter. He remembered using a special human treatment there, natural Earth proteins that boosted cell defense. Eric asked the Kareth doctors for basic immune boosters. They laughed. That's for animals, one said. Humans are animals, Eric said calmly, and sometimes simple methods work. He mixed the medicine himself. Slowly, carefully, he gave the princess small doses. Her breathing became stronger. Her heart rate slowed to normal. Her temperature dropped. On the 3rd day, Princess Thalira opened her eyes. She looked around slowly, confused. Then she saw Eric. Her voice was dry and sharp. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Eric," he said gently. "You've been very sick. I've been treating you," she frowned. "You're not Kareth." "No, I'm human." Her eyes narrowed. "You touched me?" "I saved you," he said simply. Thalira tried to sit up. She was still weak. Eric helped her, but she slapped his hand away. "I don't need help from a Terran," she said. Eric stepped back. "Fine. Try standing then." She tried. She almost fell. He caught her again. "Let go!" she shouted. "Gladly," Eric replied, setting her gently back on the bed. "Let me know when your pride finishes healing before your body does." Thalira stared at him, shocked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Over the next few days, Thalira's strength returned. Eric visited daily, giving her medicine, checking her vitals. She remained cold, always testing him. "Do all humans speak so boldly?" she asked, once. "Only the ones who aren't afraid of angry princesses." "I am a warrior," she said proudly. "I'm a medic," he replied, "and you're not my enemy." The court began to whisper. The human was succeeding. The princess was healing. The king watched quietly, never saying much, but always observing. Some nobles were angry. One, Lord Crex, believed the princess should have died rather than be saved by a human. He even tried to sneak into the chamber to poison the medicine. Eric caught him. He tackled Lord Crex and called the guards. The poison was found and removed. The king was informed. Lord Crex was arrested and thrown out of the palace in shame. When Thalira heard, she asked Eric, "Why did you protect me again?" "You're still recovering. I'm not done healing you." "You could have died," she said. He shrugged. "I've almost died plenty of times. Doesn't stop me from doing what's right." For the first time, Thalira looked at him with different eyes. She didn't smile, but the sharpness in her voice faded. That night, King Vornak stood on his palace balcony. Behind him, Jar spoke. "The human has succeeded. The princess lives." "Yes," the king said, "and now I owe him more than gold or medals." "What will you give him, my king?" The king turned to look inside, where Thalira sat quietly, with Eric beside her. "I will give him what only a true warrior earns: honor, legacy, and my daughter." Eric Hayes walked through the wide stone halls of the Kareth Palace. He was now recognized by many alien guards and servants. Some nodded to him. Others gave him cold, silent stares, but no one tried to stop him anymore. He had done what no Kareth healer could. He saved Princess Thalira from a deadly sickness. Still, Eric didn't relax. He knew some nobles were angry. He had already caught one trying to poison her medicine. And even now, some voices whispered that a human had no place in the royal palace. But Eric didn't come for power or fame. He came to heal. Inside the royal chamber, Princess Thalira sat up on her bed. She was dressed in light battle robes now, no longer too weak to move. Her skin color was returning, her eyes bright again. She looked stronger, but also more annoyed. "Eric," she said as he entered, "you are late." "I brought your favorite herbs," he said, lifting a small case. "You didn't even say thank you yesterday." Thalira crossed her arms. "I didn't ask for your help." Eric shrugged. "That's true, but I gave it anyway." She narrowed her eyes. "Do you enjoy challenging me?" "I enjoy keeping my patients alive. You just happen to be the most difficult one." Thalira let out a small breath, half a sigh, half a hidden laugh. She hated to admit it, but she had started to respect this human. He didn't fear her. He didn't treat her like a helpless royal. And most of all, he was honest. Days passed. Eric worked every morning and evening, checking her body, adjusting the medicine, and watching her movements. Her body was healing fast, but the sickness had damaged her muscles. She needed therapy and care. Thalira agreed to practice with him. Not with weapons, only simple exercises. Stretching, breathing, lifting light weights. The Kareth way was to heal through force. But Eric believed in patience and control. At first, Thalira mocked his slow methods, but she couldn't deny. Each day she felt better, stronger, balanced. One day, during a quiet morning session in the royal gardens, Thalira asked, "Where did you learn all this?" "I was a medic in Earth's Space Force," Eric said. "Then I joined a rescue fleet, helped during wars, plagues, accidents." "Why help aliens?" she asked. "We are not your people." Eric looked at her. "Because pain doesn't care what species you are, and neither do I." Thalira didn't answer. She just looked at the sky. At a council meeting, King Vornak heard reports from his spies. "The people respect the human now," said General Croth. "Many in the lower houses speak his name with honor." "And the nobles?" the king asked. "Some want him removed," Croth said. "But after he saved Thalira, few dare to speak loudly." The king nodded. "Let them grumble. Eric is under my protection." Jar, the commander of the royal guards, stepped forward. "There is more, my king. The princess is changing." "How so?" "She listens when he speaks. She trains with him. She does not argue as she once did." The king smiled slightly. "Interesting." But not all in the court were silent. Lord Tyron, a noble who hated humans, made a secret plan. He gathered a group of paid mercenaries. They would cause a scene. Attack Eric while he walked alone outside the palace. Make it look like an accident. No one would question it. But Thalira heard rumors. She had sharp ears, even when she didn't speak. She sent Jar to find Eric at once. Eric walked through a quiet outer garden when he noticed something strange. 3 Kareth warriors stood in his path. They weren't guards. Their armor was dirty, mismatched, their faces hidden. Eric stopped. "I'm just passing through," he said calmly. One of them drew a blade. "You've walked far enough, human." Eric didn't have weapons. He didn't need them. He had been in worse situations. "I'm not looking for a fight," he said. "Too bad," the warrior growled and rushed forward. Before the blade could touch Eric, a sharp whistle echoed across. "The trees!" Thalira leaped from above, landing between Eric and the attackers like a storm. Her fists moved fast. Her kicks struck with perfect aim. Within seconds, 2 mercenaries were down. The third tried to run, but Jar and his guards caught him. Eric stared. "You followed me?" "I protect what I owe," she said. "Even if what I owe is a stubborn Terran." Eric smiled. "You saved me this time." "Good," she said, brushing her hair back. "Now we are even." That evening, the king summoned Eric privately. "You saved my daughter," the king said. "Then she saved you. You have faced danger, healed wounds, and stood in my halls without fear. I have watched carefully." Eric stood still, unsure what the king would say next. "I wish to honor you," the king continued, "with more than words or riches." "I don't need a reward," Eric said. Helping her was enough. "And that," the king said, stepping closer, "is why you deserve it." Then, in a voice loud and strong, the king declared, "You shall have my daughter's hand in union." According to Kareth law, she owes her life to you. It is her right, and your honor. Eric blinked. "Wait. What?" The king raised a hand. "This is not a command. She must choose. But I will give her the right to decide." Later that night, Eric found Thalira standing on a balcony, looking at the stars. "So," she said before he could speak. "You heard?" "I did," Eric replied. "It's a lot." "I don't belong to anyone," she said. "Not even to my father." "I know," Eric said softly. "I didn't ask for you." "Good," she said. Then she turned toward him. "But I also don't forget debt. You saved me. Twice now. You've saved me too. Silence passed. Between them. I'm not ready to be given to anyone, Thalira said, but I will decide my own fate. Eric nodded. That's fair. What will you do? I want to test you, she said. Not with words or titles, with a journey, a Kareth trial of the soul. You mean a mission? A challenge, she said. You and I, alone, through the wilds. We see each other for who we really are, Eric smiled. All right, let's see if a human can keep up with a princess, she smirked. Let's see if a princess can respect a human. The twin moons of Zaltrian glowed high in the night sky as Princess Thalira and Eric Hayes prepared for their journey. It was not a vacation, not a quiet trip. It was a Kareth soul trial, an old tradition from the warrior clans. Two people traveled together through wild lands, facing danger, hardship, and tests of character. If they returned together, alive, stronger, and respectful of each other, their bond was considered sacred. Thalira had chosen this path herself. She didn't want to be given to anyone, not even to the human who saved her life. But deep down, something inside her wanted to know. Could Eric really understand her world? And Eric? He wasn't trying to win her. He didn't want a throne or a title. But if this journey could help them understand each other, he was willing to take the risk. Commander Jar stood at the gates with a small group of guards. He handed Thalira a long blade and gave Eric a Kareth-style shock baton. No royal guards, no trackers, Jar said. Only nature and your skills. Eric nodded and checked the supplies, medical gear, food packs, small survival tools. Thalira wore light armor and carried extra water on her back. Ready? She asked him. As I'll ever be, he replied. They stepped into the Emerald Wilds, the deep green forests where Kareth warriors once trained. No one lived there now. Only wild beasts, ancient ruins, and unknown dangers remained. The first day was calm. The trees were thick and tall, their leaves glowing faintly. Birds with silver feathers flew overhead. Eric and Thalira walked silently, listening to every sound. In the evening, they made a small camp near a stream. Eric cooked something simple, and Thalira tested it with a careful bite. Not bad. For human food, she said. Thanks, Eric smiled. Would you like the recipe? I prefer roasted beast with fire spice, she replied, but her tone was lighter than before. That night, they took turns keeping watch. When Eric's shift ended, Thalira surprised him by saying softly, You sleep well. I won't let anything touch you. On the second day, things changed. Around noon, they heard strange sounds, heavy steps, sharp hissing. Thalira raised her hand. Stay low, she whispered. A creature moved through the trees. It was a Velok beast, six-legged, armored like stone, with sharp fangs and a roar that shook the ground. Thalira pulled out her sword. It smells us! Eric stayed behind her, but readied his stun baton. The Velok charged. Thalira jumped forward with speed and grace, slashing the beast's leg. It roared and swung its tail, knocking her down. Eric rushed in and jabbed the beast with the stun baton. Sparks flew. The creature screamed in pain and backed off. Together they fought. Thalira with her blade, Eric using traps and tools from his kit. Finally, the beast limped away, defeated but alive. Eric helped Thalira to her feet. Her arm was bleeding. You're hurt? He said. It's nothing, she replied, but her face showed pain. Eric cleaned the wound quickly and wrapped it. That beast almost crushed you. I've fought worse, she said, though she avoided his eyes. They camped early that evening. Thalira rested while Eric sat nearby, watching the stars. You fought well, she said at last. You didn't panic. I've seen worse than that, Eric replied. But fighting beside you? That was Impressive. She looked at him. Most Kareth warriors would have run. I'm not Kareth, Eric said. But I don't run from people. I care about. For a moment they sat in silence. Something between them shifted. The third day brought more danger. They crossed an old bridge above a deep ravine. Halfway across, the bridge cracked. Thalira jumped forward and made it across, but the wood under Eric's feet snapped. "Eric!" she shouted. He grabbed a hanging vine just in time, but he dangled over the sharp rocks below. "Hold on!" Thalira threw down a rope. She pulled with all her strength. Eric climbed, sweating and breathing hard. Finally, he reached the edge. Thalira grabbed his hand and pulled him the last few feet. "That was close," Eric said, coughing. "You're heavier than I thought," Thalira said with a smirk. "Muscle," he said with a wink. She laughed. A real laugh. Not forced, not cold. That night, she let him sit beside her near the fire. "I thought humans were soft," she said, "but you're not weak." "And I thought Kareth were all pride," he replied. "But you're more than that." Their eyes met, not as enemies, not as strangers, as equals. On the fourth day, rain poured from the sky. They found shelter in a ruined temple deep in the forest. Inside, they discovered ancient carvings, Kareth warriors and healers working side by side. "This is rare," Thalira whispered. "Our people once believed warriors and healers were one." Eric touched the stone. "Maybe they were right." Thalira turned to him. "Why did you really save me?" "I didn't think about it," Eric said. "You were dying. I had the skills, I just acted." "But you stayed," she said, "even when others tried to harm you. Because I saw something in you. You weren't just a sick princess. You were fighting, even in your sleep." Thalira looked away. "Most people only see my father's name." "I see you," Eric said softly. "Strong, brave, and real." Thalira looked at him again. This time her eyes were not cold. On the fifth day they reached the edge of the wilds. A group of palace guards waited there, along with Commander Jar. "You survived," Jar said, surprised. Thalira nodded. "We completed the trial." Jar looked at Eric. "And the human?" Thalira stepped forward. "He is worthy." They returned to the palace. News spread quickly. The human and the princess had survived the trial together, and more than that, they had bonded. At the evening council, King Vornak stood before nobles and leaders. "My daughter lives because of this human." She tested him. He did not fail. Eric stood beside Thalira, quiet and calm. "And now," the king said, "I ask, do you accept what our ancient law offers? Will you take Princess Thalira as your wife, not as a prize, but as a partner?" Eric looked at Thalira. "Only if she wants it." Thalira stepped forward. She placed her hand over Eric's. "I am not a gift. I choose." Eric smiled. "Then I choose too." The crowd was silent for a moment, then claps, cheers, and voices rose. Some nobles frowned, but the people welcomed it. That night, Thalira stood with Eric under the stars. "We passed the trial," she said. "We did," Eric replied. "But life with me won't be easy," she warned. "I'm still Kareth." "And I'm still human," he said. "But I'm not afraid." Thalira smiled. "Then we begin." They stood side by side, warrior and healer, alien and human, ready for a future that neither of them expected. The palace of Zoltrion buzzed with energy. News of Princess Thalira's choice had spread across the kingdom. People whispered in the markets, talked in training halls, and even sang in the streets. A human, once seen as weak and unworthy, had completed the soul trial with the princess and returned with her respect. But not everyone was happy. Inside the Grand Council chamber, a group of nobles gathered in secret. Among them stood Lord Tyron, his face twisted in anger. "This is not our way," he hissed. "A human should never stand beside our future queen." "He healed her," one noble said quietly. "He passed the trial." "That does not make him Kareth," Tyron shouted. "He must be tested in other ways." Meanwhile, Eric stood in the palace gardens, looking at the same stars he had seen during his journey with Thalira. He felt calm, but he knew trouble was coming. Nothing this big happened without resistance. Footsteps approached. It was Thalira. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm thinking," he replied, "about what happens next. We marry." "That's what happens," she said, her voice steady. "You say that like it's easy." Thalira gave him a sideways look. "It's not. My people will judge you. Some will hate you, but I don't care." Eric smiled. "You care more than you say." "Maybe," she admitted. "But if they want to test you again, let them. We'll face it together." The next morning, King Vornak called a meeting in the royal hall. All high-ranking Kareth were present. Eric stood beside the king's throne. Thalira sat beside her father, strong and proud. Lord Tyron stepped forward. "My king," he said, "we do not question your decision. But the people need full proof that this human is truly worthy. He has passed a survival trial. But has he passed the test of honor, of battle, of Kareth blood?" There were murmurs in the room. King Vornak raised a hand. "What are you suggesting?" "A ceremonial duel," Tyron said. "Not to the death. A test. Let him face one of our warriors before the people. Let them see his courage with their own eyes." Thalira stood. "This is nonsense. He is not a warrior. He is a healer." "He stepped into our world," Tyron said. "He must walk our path." Eric stayed calm. He looked at Thalira, then the king. "I'll do it," Eric said. Thalira turned to him, surprised. "You don't have to." "I know," Eric said, "but maybe it's time I show them who I really am." The arena was prepared the next day. It was an open circle in the center of the city. Thousands of Kareth gathered. Some came to cheer. Others came to laugh. A few came to see if a human could survive even 5 minutes against a Kareth warrior. Eric stepped into the ring wearing simple armor. Nothing fancy. He held a wooden training staff. He had refused real weapons. His opponent was Commander Vex, one of Tyron's strongest supporters. Vex was tall, fast, and had years of experience in duels. Drums beat as the signal was given. The duel began. Vex rushed forward, striking fast. Eric blocked with his staff, barely staying on his feet. He dodged, ducked, rolled. He wasn't stronger, but he was faster. Cheers and shouts filled the air. Some mocked him. Some began to cheer for him. Eric didn't try to win with power. He used his mind. He let Vex swing wildly, then used that energy against him. After minutes of back and forth, Vex grew tired. Eric found his chance. He struck low, knocking Vex off balance, then swept his legs. Vex hit the ground, disarmed. The crowd went silent. Then, it erupted in applause. Later, Eric sat in the healing tent, wiping sweat from his face. Thalira walked in and threw a cloth at him. "You're insane," she said. "Maybe," he smiled. "But now they've seen what I'm made of." She sat beside him. "They cheered for you. I heard. They're starting to accept you." Eric looked at her. "What about you?" She looked into his eyes. "I accepted you the day we left the wilds. You just didn't know it." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. In the days that followed, preparations for the wedding began. It would be the first union between a human and a Kareth royal in history. People came from across the stars. Traders, leaders, and warriors filled the capital. Thalira wore a ceremonial robe of dark silver and royal blue. Her hair was tied back with crystal pins. She looked strong and graceful. Eric wore a custom-made suit with both Earth and Kareth designs. His badge as a medic was pinned to his chest, shining proudly. The ceremony took place in the Great Circle Hall. King Vornak stood in the center. "My daughter was once sick and near death," he said. "Now she stands stronger than ever. She was healed not just by medicine, but by a man with courage, heart, and honor." He looked at Eric. "You are not of our blood, but today you become part of our legacy." He turned to Thalira. "And you, daughter, choose freely?" Thalira nodded. "I do." Vornak raised his hand. "Then before all stars and all people, I bless this union. May it bring strength to both our kinds." Cheers rose. Music played. Thalira and Eric faced each other. She placed her hand on his chest. He placed his on her shoulder. "You're shaking," she whispered. "You too," he said. Then they laughed. That night they walked together through the palace gardens. "You know," Eric said, 6 months ago I was stitching wounds in a dusty outpost. Now I'm married to an alien princess." Thalira smirked. "And I was leading battle training, dreaming of glory. Now I'm married to a Terran healer." "Funny how life works," Eric said. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. He turned. To her. "Not for a second." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Good. Because this is just the beginning." They walked into the moonlight, side by side, warrior and healer, building a new future together. The sun of Zaltrion rose high in the sky, casting golden light over the palace towers. It was the morning after the royal wedding. The halls were quiet, but the air still carried the joy of the celebration. People from all over the planet, and beyond, had come to see the union of two very different beings, the proud Kareth princess and the human healer. In one of the private garden courtyards, Eric Hayes stood by a clear blue fountain. His eyes looked tired, but peaceful. He still wore parts of his wedding robe, and his medic badge hung around his neck like a symbol of both who he was and what he had done. Footsteps echoed behind him. Princess Thalira, now his wife, walked toward him in a flowing robe of deep green. Her long hair was tied back simply. She looked relaxed, but her warrior spirit was still there, in her sharp eyes and straight posture. "You're up early," she said. "I never sleep late," Eric replied with a smile. "Old habit from the field hospitals." Thalira stood beside him. "You're not in a field hospital now. You're in a palace." He looked at her. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" "Yes," she nodded, "but not bad." They both watched the birds fly over the palace walls. "I used to hate humans," she said suddenly. "I thought your kind was weak. And I used to think aliens like you were all cold and cruel," Eric answered. They looked at each other. "Funny how wrong we both were," Thalira said. Later that day, King Vornak called the couple to the council hall. There, leaders from different Kareth regions sat waiting. Some were still uncertain about Eric's place in the royal family, but none dared question the king's decision after what Eric had done. Vornak stood from his throne and addressed the room. "Our world is changing," he said. "Our enemies grow stronger, our borders stretch far, but my daughter and her husband have shown us a new path." He turned toward Eric and Thalira. "Together, you healed not just a sickness, but a long-standing wall between species. Now I give you a new task." "What kind of task?" Thalira asked. The king raised a hand and a hologram lit up in the air. It showed images of alien refugees, families hurt by war, sick from hunger, and lost in space. "There are planets in need," Vornak said. "Whole colonies suffer without doctors, food, or hope. The Kareth have never helped outsiders. But now, I say we start." Eric's eyes widened. "You want us to lead a peace mission?" "A combined effort," the king said. "You, with your medical skills. Thalira, with her protection and leadership. Together, bring our strength to the forgotten corners of the stars. Thalira looked at Eric. It will be dangerous. Eric smiled. That's never stopped me before. Within a few weeks, the two left Zaltrian in a new ship called the Dawnspear, gifted by the king himself. It was fast, tough, and equipped, with both a medbay and defense systems. Eric handled the supplies, checked the medical tools, and prepared treatments. Thalira trained the small guard crew and planned the flight paths. They worked side by side, sometimes arguing, sometimes laughing, but always respecting each other. Their first stop was a damaged mining station near the edge of neutral space. A strange illness had broken out. When the Dawnspear landed, the local people were scared. They didn't trust outsiders, but when they saw a Kareth warrior and a human medic working together, something changed. Eric set up his clinic, treating the wounded. Thalira organized the guards to protect the workers. They gave food, water, and safety. By the time they left, the people were waving goodbye, smiling. Word of their work spread fast. More messages came. Help requests, invites, offers of trade, even a few warnings from old Kareth warlords who didn't like the idea of peace missions. One message stood out. It was from a planet called Rivanos, where a human colony had once tried to live. But pirates had taken control and the people were suffering. Eric looked at the screen. These are my people, Thalira nodded. Then we go. Rivanos was not welcoming. As soon as the Dawnspear entered orbit, enemy ships attacked. Thalira took control of the ship's defenses. Eric held the medbay ready. This isn't a healing mission anymore, she said over comms. It's both, he replied. Thalira flew the ship through enemy fire with perfect skill. The guards worked with her, shooting down pirate vessels. Eric patched up wounded crew members while giving orders calmly. After 2 hard hours, the enemies fell back. The Dawnspear landed on the surface. Thalira led the team on foot, cutting through defenses with precision. Eric stayed close, treating injured locals as they moved. Finally, they reached the colony center and freed the human families inside. One old man looked at Eric and asked, "Are you a doctor?" "I'm a medic," Eric said. The man turned to Thalira. "And her?" "She's my wife," Eric replied, smiling. "And a warrior." The old man nodded. "Strange times, but good ones." After Rivanos, the couple was no longer just known on Zaltrian. They were respected across nearby systems. Together, they became a symbol of unity, of two worlds learning to stand side by side. Back on Zaltrian, murals were painted of the human and the princess. Songs were written. Young warriors and healers trained together for the first time. Even nobles who once hated Eric now spoke his name with respect. One quiet night, weeks later, Eric and Thalira sat on the deck of the Dawnspear, watching the stars. "Do you miss Earth?" Thalira asked. "Sometimes," Eric replied, "but I don't. Miss being alone." She leaned closer. "You're not alone anymore?" He smiled. "I know." Thalira looked at the stars. "Where should we go next?" "Wherever people need help," Eric said. She nodded. "Then we fly at dawn." Their story was no longer about a sick princess and a brave human. It was about change, about understanding, about building something new, together. Eric was not a prince. Thalira was not just a warrior, but as husband and wife of two worlds, they had become something more, a symbol of hope among the stars.